Hey guys, welcome to the 29th episode of the Learning Podcast. And if you're unsure, it's a Singaporean podcast dedicated to learning something new from every single guest on this show. And today I have an old timer, a second timer on this podcast.
What?
And a second timer, Kevin.
Hello! It's my second time. Am I the first person to be the second
You'll be
timer?
the first person. So
I'm so honored.
Yeah, so next week I actually have Haris on as well. So I think
really?
it'll be meaningful to have just catch-up sessions. The last time I think I spoke to Kevin was a few weeks,
Episode 10.
I spoke to you. We met offline at a hawker center just to catch up in general. But I think the last podcast you have had is about 6 months ago.
Yeah, episode
so
10.
I thought this would be interesting to just catch up accordingly to see where we are right now. I think this conversation will mostly be very informal and just speaking our minds because Kevin has already shared a lot of where he came from and where he's currently going, and I think maybe we could have more real conversations on the kind of difficulties because it's not sexy
situation
in a sense whereby we talk about all these long-term things, right? But I think that keeping up with the realities and maybe keeping each other in check, right, will be a very useful thing. And I must say that this period of time, is quite bad, honestly. Right now, it's the period of the coronavirus. Everything's happening. I myself, as a piano tutor, right, a lot of my students are cancelling lessons. So in a sense, it's making me more happy. Not to say I don't enjoy. Okay, wait. Not to say that I don't enjoy teaching piano. Just that I realize that I have a lot more time for myself.
Sure.
And to a certain extent, I'm selfish that way. So I'm working on a lot of projects that I want to work on that I can do because teaching piano Saturdays are gone. Okay, sorry for the long rant, right?
I'll ask you about that later.
How have you been, man?
Wow, where do I start? It's been an interesting 6 months. But first of all, I'm very excited to be back again chatting with you because
thanks for coming.
we've been quarantined and we're 1 meter apart just in case you're wanting to know about that. Yeah, but no, I enjoy talking to Jiang Jun because I get inspired by him. and also because I get free content. But it's mainly the first point now.
I mean, how have you been as a freelancer, right? As you're
free
being
chocolate milk as well.
Yeah, free chocolate milk, right? As being your own boss, right? I mean, right now it's quite difficult. What kind of challenges do you face right now that's particular to the time right now?
Yeah. So I think just a quick recap in case they haven't watched the initial one, right? I mean, I'm just running a social enterprise, a training company that focuses on resilience and mental health in students, right? So I run programs in schools, I give talks. So during this period, as we know, pretty much a lot of things are being cancelled, postponed. So initially, I think it was naturally we're all self-centered to some extent, right? We don't naturally.
I think we should be, honestly. I think we should be. We all are selfish to a certain extent,
right? Yeah. So I think we're wide away. So initially, when the news first came, I think the most common or immediate response is that more of a selfish one, I worked so hard this couple of months to build up my programs because the school planned 1 year in advance.
Oh shit!
Yeah. So I had to work very hard the end of last year to pack my programs Jan, February, March, April, even May. Just to build that pipeline to do the programs. But a lot of it got postponed because assembly talks are completely cancelled. Even school programs, some of them more cautious. So initially, a bit challenging. But I will share with you one thing very interesting. And this is something we can kind of elaborate and talk about because I actually met very good people. So I met this guy called Rushdie. He's the founder of Reactor School. I'm not sure if you know, Reactor School is a training company that runs entrepreneurship programs in about 5 countries, including Singapore. And to him, his impact is way greater than mine, right? Few tens of Ks of dollars. And he's just coming back from a country where he just got a deal and the deal got called off because of the situation. So I was having just a coaching session with him. He agreed to just coach me out of his grace. Sometimes you just find people along the way like that. And so I was asking him how you're affected and everything. And then this is what he told me that really blew my mind. He said, never let a good crisis go to waste. Never let a good crisis go to waste. And he didn't say that just cognitively to trying to comfort himself, right? He actually meant that emotionally, meant that viscerally. And that was very, and then he was cool because he's quite a spiritual guy, so he's quoting Aang as well. No, did you watch Avatar?
No,
Avatar, okay.
I did watch Avatar, okay, but refresh my memory.
Okay, so Avatar is basically a cartoon, but it's not just a cartoon. It's spiritual education. It's a very popular TV anime series on Nickelodeon.
Oh, it's not the movie.
No, not the movie. Not the movie. I'm talking about Avatar, Legend of Aang.
Oh, okay, sorry. I have no idea. Man.
Legend of Aang is that guy with arrow on his head. It's very spiritual, very interesting show. So Aang was actually a quote that says like, it is at our lowest point where we're open to the greatest change. Yeah, and I found that to be quite true. I mean, during these months, you have to really, like you said, spend time alone to reflect, to be creative, to be innovative. And a lot of things that you don't see before you start to see it. And yeah, it's just been a blessing, I would say.
How do you not let this crisis right now go to waste in your own ways right now?
Wow.
So sometimes like, I have a lot of friends telling me like I have different buckets of friends, right? They're like the investing friends. Yeah. Right now is the time to buy into the markets. Everything is dropping. Everything is underpriced. And like the index funds are all down. Stocks are down. You should definitely buy them. Then there's the career. There's the career side, whereby let's say right now is the time to double down on really serving our clients to the best of your ability. What realms have you worked on to not let this crisis go to waste?
I think first of all, you gotta respond, not react. And this is what the most fascinating thing is this, right? My company is called Rebound with Resilience.
Oh yes, you must,
So everything that I share with students, that I practice, that I advocate and preach in a way, is now something I have to demonstrate.
Yes.
And teachers or clients are actually watching, right? How you respond, how you take it. And it's very important in your communication to them, because you must, first of all, empathy. We talked about this the last time, right? About empathy and putting yourself into people's shoes and suspending your self-interest temporarily when you're serving other people. So I do that. I ask myself, how are teachers feeling in that moment? There are way more things to do. How much things they have to deal with. So the best I can do for them is to understand and just build their social capital. Say, understand, let's stay in touch. I'll continue to send you articles, that you can share with students, whatever. Sometimes I have meetings with them. Before this social safe distancing was a thing in January, February, just to understand and to kind of get some input to refine my programs. Yeah, and just tell them that I'll be here, in the future, and we can always rearrange again. Yeah, and I'm sure that eventually the pent-up demand will come back. So I think on that side, yes, serving the clients more, that's one, understanding where they're coming from and not just demanding your rights. Investing is interesting because I also got interested in investing during this period because of all these people that are saying these things. And I realized it's quite important because when you invest young, I don't want to claim that I'm an expert. From what I read and understand, the basic stuff that I understand is that when you invest, you can't really always time the market, and complex investments are meant for people who are more serious in it. Like for people like us, passive investors, it makes sense to put it in index funds, stocks that probably have blue chip and growth potential, index funds basically. So and then you will grow year on year and then eventually the compounding effect will help you.
On that note, right, perhaps I want to change gear a little bit.
Sure.
You talked about, let's say, creating this program really from scratch. You spend so much time, right? I mean, I'm just, from my outsider's perspective, I don't think that this effort is all gone to waste. Like, you spend so much time preparing for it. It's some material that you'll definitely be able to use again. In terms of, let's say, could you just sidetrack a little bit from all this, not to say like negativity, but in terms of your thought process of making a good program, like the feedback loops that you get from teachers, right? How do you make a good program? I know this is like a big question. Of course, it's specific. I'm not sure if you have like several programs, but what are the general principles when you look out for into creating something that is really of value to your clients, which are teachers and students as well?
So I learned this from Rushdi as well. He talks about you need to have a customer inquiry board, because ultimately the customers are the ones that you are serving in this space, in the trading space. I mean, it's the bigger product market fit kind of model, but you got to understand what they need at the moment and ask them. The feedback is very important. So first, I mean, there's so many places to start, right? Okay, maybe you start with a program design first. So pedagogy, program design, it's usually there are three there's general objectives and specific objectives. So general objectives are, overall, what is it you're trying to accomplish? What is it training is what's the difference between training and teaching? Teaching is more of knowledge in general knowledge, overall knowledge. Training is a specific skill, right? Investing, resilience, communication, that's training. So you need to have knowledge objectives, what you want your audience or clients to know. Attitude objectives, which is how you feel. motivation, and the last thing is skill. So behavioral changes what you want to see. So we call it KSA. So you start with your KSA, and then you break it down to specific objectives into the program. How many hours you have? Is it 1 day, 2 days? Is it a couple of hours? Then you go down to the means of achieving the KSA. Is it through content, storytelling? Is it through experiential learning, gamification? Is it through reflection, where they reflect and do certain things? So usually it's a combination of all these things. And training methodologies usually evolve in different methodologies, but broadly speaking, it's these modalities.
Like how do you get started knowing about all these? Like, let's say, maybe like for me, the reason why I asked, right? Let's say, because I have a lot of like people on LinkedIn pinging me out, or friends asking me, right? Like let's say on simple things, how do you create content, or how do you do a video podcast in a sense, right? Then I was like, I don't really,
just do it.
I mean, I know I just do it, but like just do it. That's why I'm finding out how do you teach. So maybe I can learn some ways on, let's say, if I were to go into like creating a program to teach as well, right? I could do that myself, but for yourself, how do you know about all this?
You read.
Or just read?
It's a combination. So how we learn basically is our 5 senses, right? So it's a combination of reading, it's trade specific books. Like I go to Kino and read books on training for dummies. This is simple training for simple stuff. But I think for me, I learned initially by getting my hands wet in the industry. So personal development training, speaking, education is something I'm passionate about. So naturally, when my value for it is there, I'm obsessed about it. My mind is attuned to information with regards to training, and inspiration can come in any form. Literally any form. I can be talking to you, can just walk past and see a butterfly fly, and then I got inspiration about a program. So it's really from every form. But I started out me doing a lot of freelance training for different companies, so I know roughly how the thing is run.
Okay, so basically get your like you said, get your toes wet.
Get my toes wet. I know from start to finish how projects are executed. I know the market. I know the gaps in the market. What are the programs that are lacking? What is lacking in that process? And then I start a company to fill those gaps. And even after I start, way more gaps. The real value of knowledge is knowing that you don't know anything. The more you learn, the more you don't know. The more you learn, the more stupid you realize you are. That's the value of personal education. So that's me, lor. And when I started, I realized there's so many gaps. And I learned from Rushdie. I met him in 30 minutes, right? He covered so many blind spots, and it's just so fascinating that this is forever. It's just a process of growth, I don't claim to know everything. So it's really a process of continuously trying to improve my programs and getting feedback and just that loop,
On the topic of getting feedback, right? I think one topic that I'm very interested by, like mentorship. I know for yourself, right? You seek mentorship from, let's say, people who have already done it, who are established in these fields, right? I myself, I haven't really involved myself in like having an active mentor as well. Like, could you even share like how do you even get started with finding mentors in the first place, and how do you find, and what questions to ask? Like, how do you even got to this guy in the first place?
For me, no, I'm just kidding. But no, I think that's a good question, because a lot of people watching or listening to the podcast might have that question, or are very eager to kind of learn. What I realized about mentorship is that right now, more than ever, there are online mentors. There are people that give you information. You can go on YouTube, there are podcasts. You can be hungry to learn. That's number one, right? Number two, if you talk about real life mentors, I met this gentleman because of a networking event that I went to. I heard him speak. I was impressed. I could immediately know that this is someone that I want to be in 5 years' time, or at least working towards. Runs a training company. So I just connected with him. I just say, hey, I appreciate your sharing. Just exchange name card. I say, can I have a meeting with you to have coffee? So actually, I just want to have coffee to learn from you. I didn't expect anything. So I just go in and have coffee. And just that session, he asked me about my business. I just shared with him what's my revenue model and everything. And then he just took me to a whiteboard and he wrote down, he just gave me a 30-minute coaching session. And I asked him, why are you mentoring me? And really, I asked him, is there anything I can do for you? He said, no. He said, how are you mentoring me for free? Then he said, no, I'm not mentoring you for free. I expect you to get the job done. I expect you to actually do the shit that I tell you to do. So,
but going back, why did he do it? Did you manage to dive one step deeper? Like, why did he do it?
Why did he do it?
Yeah.
So I asked him this question. I think underlying is that I think it's paying it forward. So I think we have this perception that we must. Okay, so I'm going to talk about it soon, right? But you must always seek in a mentor-mentee relationship, I think there needs to have some that there will always, because you cannot be giving and not taking, or keep taking and not giving. It's just a balance in nature. If there's no balance and you keep giving without taking in, naturally your cup is going to be empty. So there always has to be that balance. But so I'm thinking in the back of my mind, how can I actually provide value for him? But he's not expecting it. But I'm still thinking about of course I will want to provide value for him because he has provided so much value to me. So it's just that non-transactional relationship where we're not bonded by direct financial interest in each other. But for him, I would think that he just enjoys paying it forward. He gives him that satisfaction. The equity is in his value, and also that he shared that he enjoys speaking to people like me, young entrepreneurs, and he gets very energized later in the day when he speaks. And it's not very often. It's like once in 2 weeks, maybe I have a chat with him once in a while. It's not like a serious mentorship 1 hour sit down. It's a very chill thing. And I give back. So sometimes my clients require entrepreneurship programs. I will I will talk the shit out of this guy. I'll just edify him to death. Edify means to uplift somebody. So I really talk about the company, sell him, and I say, you go and contact this guy for this program. So it's just a two-way thing.
Yeah. I 2 questions to follow up, right? In terms of the things that you went to the whiteboard with him, right? The kind of I know it's specific to your own business and everything, but if there's any general things or general obvious things that people can share, people should look out for. Let's say when they are starting a business, what are the kind of things that really, he's sharing me something that it may be obvious, but it's something that I didn't take note of, and it's important to my business.
Okay, first of all, I think you need to self-image. And I talk about this in my training programs as well. Your self-esteem. Okay, how do you define self-esteem?
I don't have like a proper dictionary definition, but my JJ's definition of self-esteem is to accept who you are and have the confidence in yourself.
Right.
As simple as that.
Right. So if you ask anybody about self-esteem, there's always an element of value in yourself, right? Self-respect, that value in yourself. And you need to have that self-esteem or self-image. Esteem essentially means respect. The esteemed person means it's someone that's of value, of respect, right? So you need to respect yourself enough or have enough self-image to reach out to people. To reach out to people who you think are at a higher level to you. And there's one quote that one of my mentors shared with me. You see, your income will never exceed your self-image. Your income will never exceed your self-image. Because, classic example, right? If you don't feel that you're deserving of the wealth, or you don't feel that your market rate as a self-employed person or freelancer, you feel paiseh to ask for a raise, or you feel paiseh to ask for the value you think you deserve, right? And you let people take advantage of you or whatever, underpay you and stuff like that. So your self-image determines that. On a more broader scale, right? I think your self-image in this case determines whether you reach out to people. Whether you're willing to say that, I just want to learn. I have no judgment. Because a lot of people are afraid to reach out because they feel like, what do I have to provide? Or what do I have to, offer people? But I realized that a lot of people, like mentors who have made it, they start out from somewhere. And they empathize with people who are hungry, people who are just starting on their journey. So first tip is that just have the self-image to go out there and get out there and network with people, talk to people. You have nothing to lose. Even the crisis now, the COVID crisis, have helped me realize that no matter how, this is fascinating, no matter how diverse and different we think we are, our status, conscious status level, income level, and the fascinating thing is I was just listening to PM Lee talk about the crisis, and then after that, Jurgen Klopp is like the coach of Liverpool, talking about the same thing. I never thought in a million years the PM of Singapore and the coach of Liverpool will be talking about the same thing, banding together in tough times to get through this period, COVID. And then I realized that, so the insight that I realized is that no matter how diverse we are, right, we are ultimately made of the same thing. That a small ridiculous joker, right, can go around and wreak havoc because we're actually, no matter what you believe that source to be, right, we are made from the same source. And just that alone, right, should give you the self-image to say that he's no different from me. Yes, he might have more credentials, whatever, but he's just a human like me. Reach out and talk to them. you know. And when you realize that, right, I think that's the first barrier you overcome. When you reach out and say that, let's have coffee, so I enjoy your work. So I mean, of course, look through the person's profile, know what he's doing, do some background research about what he's doing, and then reach out, maybe pay a sincere compliment or something that resonates with you, and then just share that, hey, simple thing about what you're doing can be probably related to what he's doing, right? That's why you want to reach out and say that, could I just have a chat? Could I maybe buy you a meal? Just have a chat, just have a coffee with you. Maybe I can learn from you and see how I can possibly contribute or add value to your business as well, whatever you're doing. So add value to the person. You need to have an idea. Same thing with interviews, right? It's not just about you, it's about how you can help the company that you're applying for. It's the same thing for mentorship. Yeah, so go in with that framing on LinkedIn, whatever platforms, or even if it's face-to-face networking, go in with that mindset that you want to learn from them and also see how you can provide value for them. Just have that coffee session, and along the way, you will realize how you can seek it. After the first chat, you will realize.
So in terms of the two things that I got out of that, right? So one is have the self-esteem to charge and know what's your worth.
Yeah.
And basically expand your network and not be paiseh about it, because everyone is on their own path. So are those the actionables that you're currently doing in terms of raising your prices and, let's say, really aggressively expanding your network?
Yeah, for sure. I think even for me, when I share this with you, right, it's not something that I'm immune to, right? Because we're gonna talk later. We can talk about that, like how it's very fascinating. As human beings, we are driven by the desire for gain and avoidance of pain. So like we are naturally fearful of things it's a perception. We are fearful of things we are afraid to lose, or in this case, it's self-image. So you're afraid that you're going to lose your self-image or lose your face. But in the grand scheme of things, you realize there's nothing to lose. Yeah, because you are born with nothing and you're going to leave with nothing. So once you get that perspective, right, then you're not slave to your primal desires. It's not just the desire for gain, avoidance of pain. It's something greater than that. That I'm here to honor something greater. I'm here to contribute. And once you have that perception, you don't get kind of swayed by emotional imbalances, or you don't get swayed by thinking that someone is better off than you. That comparisons, because right now sometimes I'm very susceptible to that.
I am as well.
That how come this person is like providing more value than me, and then I look at the person, they're doing so much documentation, and look at you're doing a podcast. It's very natural that we compare to other people and say that I'm not as good, but you must realize that like you have value. You have value to provide the world, to contribute, and that alone should give you confidence to know that there's something you can give that no one else can give.
On that note, right, I've been meeting some of my friends, like university mates, right? Like I recently met with some of my friends. They're working like very, very big companies. They are like earning like literally 4 times, 5 times what I'm earning, right? Like, when I had this conversation with them, I really, at that moment of time, I was like, you really question yourself why you're doing this. Yeah. But at the end of the, I think we will always be comparing ourselves in that sense. But I just be aware of that. I think that is very powerful, and that's something that I struggle on my own as well. Like, really, is this really what I like doing? And I think it forces you in a sense to be more self-critical. I myself am facing that challenge as well. Like, let's say for asking people on this podcast, right? Recently, I'm trying to ask, like, punching above my weight. I'm asking really very big people, right? I've got a lot. Actually, technically, I haven't got an explicit rejection yet, but a lot of them have been receptive. Like how you talk about, let's say, all these big people being humans, right? I empathize with that. I mean, having met, not to say like they are much bigger. I have met people like Gary Vaynerchuk, Nas Daily himself, Egon Hair, like all these very big influencers, right? They are human. They are human with their their weaknesses as well. Yeah. And like when we, not to say like the social media thing, right? On the sidelines, right? Right now I'm trying to do like an Instagram detox in a sense. I'm not using Instagram for a while right now. Yeah, okay. And I know this conversation is very popular. Like Instagram is like a created profile of everything, right? So we have that, but right now I'm not too concerned by it, but
the main message you want to send across is that, like, even for us, if you look up to us in any way, realize that you can start on your journey as well. Like self-image, on this topic of self-esteem, right, is, and I might share, and I would like to share this as well, maybe as a mini microbite or whatever you want to call it. People ask me, like, how do you actually build self-esteem, self-image? I ask this question a lot of people, like people that I respect and at least I believe have high self-confidence. I ask them, like, how do you build your self-image? Where does it come from? And there's a lot of variations in answers lah. But what I realized that commonality in the answer is that it always boils down to, like you said, self-respect and knowing that you have a value that is distinct, that no one else has. You don't care how famous the other person is, how many followers the other person is, whatever, or whoever you're comparing to. There's certain value and certain people you can relate to that no one else has.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Let's say, like what I had this conversation yesterday. I had a podcast yesterday, right? Like in the end, right, to be extreme, all the content that we're saying is there's nothing really original.
Yep.
But it's the little twist, I don't want to say twist, but it's the little projections that we have from our own lives that make it unique and appealing to each Singaporean. So let's say
you yourself are the original.
Yeah. So let's say for me, right, something I'll say might probably never resonate with, let's say, a Singaporean young lady.
Yeah.
But let's say if I'm having a conversation with a Singaporean young lady and she's giving her perspective and I'm adding my 2 cents, right? And that might be able to reach that person as well. So there's like there's a billion ways of saying something of the same thing, but yet appealing it to different people.
Yeah, and that is the magic. That's the magic in it. When you share your truth, right, and not be fearful of judgment or comparisons, naturally you shine through. You know, you're not suppressed by societal social idealisms. Your authenticity actually shines through. That's self-image, and that's why I also refine, if I may share. That's how I refine my vision. Initially, it was help people realize their unique genius and worth. Right, I actually changed it a little bit to help people realize their distinct genius and divine worth. Because whoever you believe is the source, right? I do believe that subtly at subconscious level, we know that there's a hidden order. There's a hidden order and there's a hidden creator that we are unique, that we have this worth in us that no one else has. You know, and that we can share certain things, that we can do certain things and contribute in a certain way that no one else has. And so once we realize that, you start to build your self-image and your self-esteem. And just like how Martin Luther King cannot serve the poor in the same capacity as Mother Teresa, how Mother Teresa may not speak the same oratory presence as Martin Luther King. You know, so is this concept we talk about that's important.
On that note of being unique, right, because I received some messages on LinkedIn or some friends that ask me, right, like in terms of content creation, what should I create? And I say just be you in that sense lah. And they say they don't feel that they are interesting, they don't feel that their point of view is unique or interesting enough. What will you say to those people?
You're boring. Just kidding.
Whoa!
No.
Okay.
Sometimes you need to slap people in the face. That's how my mentor slaps me a few times.
That's
like, you need
nice.
to know the truth.
That's cool.
Yeah, because you cannot let people live in a lie also. Sometimes we need to face the truth. Like David Goggins said, before we move on, you need to face the truth. And the reason why we feel that we are not interesting is very simple. It's because we hide ourselves in a box. I think the first thing you need to do is get out of the box. Get out of that safe zone that we are conditioned by society to be in. Be insanely curious about the world around you, because it's so many things to learn and perspective. And everything that we are talking about comes from synthesis, comes from reading. Like, it's not things that I'm not an interesting person. It just happened to be that I synthesize stuff and I share. So, like, I think that's the first thing. First, be curious and go out there and just experience life. Naturally, you find things to talk about. So that's the first thing. If that is coming from a space of, let's say they are saying that and it's coming from a space of a self-image issue, then whatever we talked about earlier will be relevant. Just I was watching a video where Gary Vaynerchuk was talking about this as well, to some guy that he feels that he's not unique. He feels that he has no value to it because other people are better than him. So Gary's answer to him was exactly what we're talking about, that you have to realize that you just by being yourself, right, and sharing your story, there are distinct elements, nuances in it that no one else has. And that can relate to somebody else. When that relates to somebody else, that makes you unique. You know? And So I think also it stems from a place of self-judgment. Really, because they're overly... First of all, I really don't think that they have nothing to share. Everybody has something interesting to share. I know I was a bit harsh just now, right? But it's about knowing it's whether you recognize having a self-image to share. It's not whether I think it's a self-image, not necessarily that you have nothing to share, just that whether you feel it's of value.
I don't know. I think some, at least like when you said you're boring, right? Like it was really a slap in the face, like in the sense, like, okay, I know I'm not like talking like weird stuff already, right? But like feel it. Like someone says to you, you're boring.
Yeah.
Feel that you're boring.
Yeah.
What's next? Then it's a sort of like acceptance that, okay, I mean, it's just, but you don't let it go to that self-acceptance that, oh, I am boring. But recently I was reading this book, right? It talks about the 3 kind of thoughts that we have, very, very simple. Poor me because of that person, and what can we do next? Essentially, all our thoughts, right, can be coupled in this this triangle thoughts. Is it poor me or this happened to me? This happened to me. It's all like I'm just so unfortunate that everything has happened to me. The second thing is that, it's because of someone. It's because of him that's like that. It's because of her that's like that. But many people, or at least this book claims that many people don't look at the third point of this triangle, which is, what can we do now? It's really what can we do now about it that would make it different. Because the 2 other thoughts, the first 2 former thoughts, right, it's in a sense not helpful. So let's say when you say you're boring, then you have this thoughts, poor me, or it's because of someone else. But what can we do next? Okay, this is the current book I'm reading, so it's quite interesting in a sense.
I want to talk on that as well, because that is interesting. It's very relevant to our times now. Maybe we can tangent off and talk a little bit about COVID and link it to that situation as well. Because I think it's something people want to listen about, because they are living in fear sometimes. I didn't elaborate on it just now, but respond, don't react. Respond, don't react. What's the difference? Yeah, of course it's semantics, right? But respond. Okay, I'll give you an analogy. A doctor will say you're responding well to the medication versus you're reacting badly to the medication. Reacting essentially is you're just slave to your emotional brain only, your limbic system. We can talk about. I mean, if you ask certain questions, I can bring it out, but maybe just let me share. I don't mind. So we are. Our prefrontal cortex, right, is the most evolved part of our brain, the thinking, logical part of the brain. If you go back to a few, how the brain evolved is the limbic brain. So we call it the caveman brain. Last time our brains,
amygdala, is it? Was the prefrontal cortex?
Yes. Yeah. So that's amygdala is part of the limbic system, along with the hippocampus.
In very layman's terms, what is the difference between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex part of the brain?
Okay, so amygdala is actually part of the limbic system. So the limbic system is the emotional brain that deals with feelings, emotions, trust, instinctual reactions. It's called the primal brain, the animal brain. The prefrontal cortex is more developed. It's the thinking, rational part of the brain. And that is the part where we can use to respond. There's a saying that says, for things to change, first I must change. Right? It's not about the situation around us, it's about what we can do. But the reason why we react, we lay blame, we criticize, we condemn, we complain, we bitch, we moan, we whine, right? All these things are all, like you mentioned, we personalize the problem. All this is because we are slave to the limbic system that is very susceptible to threat. It's called a negativity bias. We're very susceptible to threats in the environment. And that's why we have that stress response. You see, if you look at the caveman era, right? Like why they have... why are they so... last time they had to hunt. They go around and hunt for food, right? And if let's say there's a threat in the environment, immediately there's a fight or flight response, right? The stress actually kicks in. They perceive a threat in the environment, and then your amygdala or your limbic system actually causes adrenaline, cortisol to cut through your body, and then you have dilated pupils, your blood flows to the end of your body, and then you fight or flight, right? So that's actually a stress response, and it's a very instinctual, very immediate thing. Like I need to run, but the issue with that is that it's a negativity bias. That means that now fast forward to today, right? That threat is no longer a saber-tooth tiger. It's no longer something that's going to kill us. But that same response we use, right, in evolution, in our brain in the past, is that same bias that we carry now. So we think that a threat is going to kill us, and we respond in the same way as if a tiger is chasing us. We are very susceptible or attuned to the threats in the environment, which is bad. Yeah, because just like for example the COVID crisis, right? Everyone's panicking because that part of the brain is firing. I'll give you an example, right? If let's say you make 2 mistakes, there are 2 mistakes that you're going to make, and you got to choose one mistake. Either you think that there's a tiger in the bushes when there's no tiger, or you think there's no tiger in the bushes but there is one. Which mistake would you rather make?
The first one?
Yeah, which is thinking there's a tiger but there is none, right? Your brain is evolved to make the first mistake 100 times more than the second mistake. Because if you make the second mistake even once, right?
You're dead.
You're screwed, you're dead. And that's why pain is a more powerful motivator than pleasure. It's how our limbic brain actually evolved. We're more susceptible to negativity, to threats in the environment. We call it negativity bias. Like, you can go and read it up, check it out, Google, you understand. But that is why we are conditioned to overestimate threats and underestimate opportunities. Right? When we opportunity, we fear of failure, fear that the tiger is chasing us. When there's no tiger chasing us, it's just whether you fail or not, and we feel nothing happened lah. But because our limbic brain or our caveman brain is telling us that we're going to die, the same mechanisms, blood is flowing, you get cortisol, you get stressed, chronic stress and everything. So, it's very fascinating. Yeah, so the idea so anyway, going back to the main point, I know this is such a long thing because sometimes I'm not super eloquent, but the main point is that you understand that, first of all, what's the solution to this is that understand that it's your caveman brain functioning. Self-awareness is the first step to change. And then you use your cortex, your thinking brain, to rationalize or to keep yourself balanced. And understand that, first of all, it's not an actual threat, and that every perception of loss or every perception of negativity, there's an equal and opposite pole. And you can use your cortex to actually find that. So anyway, this is one of the things that I do for stress regulation in students as well. Because stress is a huge issue. Stress is actually a huge issue because, the stress response, we learn about it, right? But the issue is that if you're constantly stressed, right, chronic stress, the cortisol actually wreaks havoc on your body. Blood flows to the end of your body. Your organs don't get enough blood to actually repair itself. You're constantly anxious, anxiety, and you lead to a lot of stress-related disorders like depression, anxiety. And a lot of that stress is caused by a perception of a threat. Imagine that's the key thing I'm trying to tell people. The stress itself is not the stressor itself is not the stress. It's your interpretation of it that causes the stress. Your perception of it. Okay, if today, let's say I have let's say we're doing this podcast, right? Then all of a sudden this is tarantula like this size. Okay, it crawls on the table. What would be your response?
Run.
You run, right? What would be my response? I'll get super excited. Okay, I would start doing my wildlife Wednesdays. Wildlife Wednesdays. And then I'll start talking about the spider and everything. Then why is it that we have different responses, right? Because our perception of the stress is different. So I try to help students understand that. And this is what I learned from, you can check this guy out as well, someone that I look up to, and it's a polymath. His name is Dr. D. Martini. So he studies things across physics, astronomy, metaphysics, psychology. He research studies across different fields, and then he combines it and synthesizes it into a training program. And he talks about this. He said every single stress that we face, right, is caused by a perception of loss of that which we are trying to gain, or the perception of gain of that which we are trying to avoid. Okay, the perception of loss of that which we are trying to gain, or the perception of gain of that which we are trying to avoid. Every single stress. And it's again linked back to our primal brain. Fear, desire for gain or avoidance of pain. And the way to balance that out is to look at the other side. Every negativity, there's an equal and opposite pole. It's also backed up by science. You know, like if you look at a Neuron magazine, right? A science magazine, a journal, they found out that every memory has an anti-memory.
Every memory has an anti-memory. Okay.
That is equal and opposite spin in electrons. So when you are charged, when you're emotionally charged, right, it's because you're imbalanced. Why is it when we have epiphanies or when we start to come to a balanced state, or this state where you feel grateful, right? We have come to this, because some people call it, they describe it as a burden being lifted from their chest. All of a sudden, wisdom is being able to see, look back in the past and realize that has to happen for a reason. It's the recognition that there's both sides. That pain also had a benefit to it. But the issue is that sometimes it takes months or even years. Sometimes people don't even overcome it forever. So there's a process to help people to shorten that process, which is ask yourself, what's the benefit of this situation? This COVID-19 to you personally, what's the benefit of my businesses, my programs being cancelled? Immediately I write down 30 benefits of my program being cancelled. And I also write down the drawbacks of the outcome that I desire. So the benefits of the situation now and the drawbacks of the outcome that I desire, which is if the program had continued to run, what would be the drawbacks of that? When I do that, right, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to balance the emotional charge in my brain and to erase that stress, that perception of loss. So this is one thing that I'm working to do with students now, because stress is a major issue in schools. Yeah, but I hope I give you some perspective.
No, that's very nice. I think it necessitates that context as well.
Yeah.
Another question I would like to follow up, right? You talk about, I interpret that the root of the problem is really the perception of the stress or the situation that's going on, right? And I've been reading about this thing called spiral dynamics. Tons of research paper have been written onto it. I'm only just giving like a tiny iceberg of what this spiral dynamics mean. It simply means that in every society, right, there are different classifications of the perceptions. So basically there's a stage green, stage turquoise, stage yellow, stage orange, stage green. So let's say a person in stage red, right, would have this perception like, wow, everything's happening, and that's why they have this cortisol reaction and everything is very stressed, right? And perhaps let's say you would say more and more generally more liberal societies whereby people really this is another virus. Their perception of it is not, they don't perceive it to be as a threat. So there are different stages of it, right? Some people say that this virus, right, statistics of people that die from flu globally, like coronavirus isn't like close to it as yet. And you talk about the economic impact that it has, right? In fact, the economic impact has killed more people in that sense relative to the people that really die. I mean, I know this is a very heartless thing to say. Like people are dying. I see pictures in Italy and all that kind of. People are really dying. Like elderly people.
Sure, it's not heartless. We got to treat it.
But the economic crisis of it will kill even more people via depression, via suicide, via them losing their jobs,
That's a fascinating perspective.
Them being retrenched. So when I looked at it, it's like, from a very math perspective, right?
Yeah. But we're not logical.
We're not logical in that sense.
We're driven by the Olympic system, Precisely why we're driven by the Olympic system, right? Is because that's precisely why we have such an issue dealing with this crisis now. Because the US underestimated the threat. You know, it's that perception. The one time where you need to overestimate the threat, right? You underestimate it. And the thing,
I remember the period of time when the news is like, it's China's problem. Everything's China's problem. It's Asia's problem. Then the next thing you know, Italy and US. They're like, that shit already.
And the thing is that, yes, I think I agree that, yes, there's every time people say something, right, there's a reason why they say something. Okay, like yes, in terms of flu and everything, it's not as, you look at the numbers, whatever. That was then. That was the numbers then. You look at numbers now, or if you look at how fast the disease has spread. First of all, I don't know a lot. First of all, we need to make a disclaimer. We're not experts.
I must make a disclaimer. We are just talking about,
if we make a mistake,
just
please forgive us.
But
it's just like from what I said last time about crisis management. When you talk about disease health crisis, there are two things: severity and susceptibility. So how severe it is and how susceptible you are to this, and there are different scales to it. So if you look at this disease or this virus, right, susceptibility is, at first they say it's okay just to a particular population, but it's start to realize that even in different countries like US, there are people that are younger that's being affected and that's being susceptible. And severity as well, that the death rate is 2%. It's higher than just a normal virus. And it's not just that, it's a lot of other implications. If you look at New York, for example, now, right, just reading the news yesterday, New York's in crisis there. Can you imagine, like, the most city that is known for its bustling city, is known to be like the capital of dreams. It's such a famous city. And they're in absolute crisis there. Like every single day, every 14 minutes, someone dies of the coronavirus. Hospitals are overloaded. People that, like you said, are pregnant, they need treatment for other conditions, they are turned away. Doctors have to choose who to treat. They have not enough supplies. And that's why the death rate is increasing as well. Now they are building 4 makeshift hospitals with the military's help. They are sending crews, the ships, as makeshift hospitals as well. And if you look at it, it's like Bill Gates said in 2015, we're not ready for the next crisis. And it's a test of the healthcare systems, a test of the social fabric. It's not just like a comparison between that and the common flu. It's all the rest of the implications, like you said, the depression that comes with it, the mental health cost of it. There is this ripple effect into people that cannot seek treatment. There's so many, and going back to this point, right, I think we are so grateful to be here. Crisis is also a time where you reveal people's character. You reveal, on a personal level, crisis reveals your character. It reveals your resilience. And it really strips you down and tests your strength of your character. And on a national societal scale, it's the same. This crisis actually tested the strength of the character and the social fabric of countries' healthcare systems around the world. And the reason why Singapore can respond so well is because we don't see a lot of things that the government is doing underlying to prepare for such a crisis. And the fact that we only have of course, touch wood, we cannot say this, we always have to be vigilant, right? But the fact that we are containing, look at Singapore, it's so dense there, it should have been exploded by now. But the fact that we have 800 cases is crazy, it's ridiculous, it's remarkable. Yeah, we need something to be grateful for and need to definitely be vigilant.
I don't know, I think Singapore is quite awesome.
Yeah, I get goosebumps talking about it, the integrity and the strength of our leadership in times of crisis.
I recently had a call with one of my friends in Mexico. He's an Italian. So basically, Italy, the crisis is damn bad, right? Then he was saying that he was watching the speech by PM Lee.
Yeah.
Then he cried,
Okay, yeah.
He literally cried when he... Then I was like, it's so fascinating that the way that PM, okay, not to say a fanboys of him, but the way that he communicated such a message. Right? After that, I went to see the YouTube comments. Right, it's wow, I wish he was our PM. All the kind of so nice comments, right? So fatherly and everything, right? I think it's very interesting. To me, politics is something you see how US Donald Trump handled it, how Xi Jinping handled it. It's quite an interesting thing. I don't know it's like world topics already, but
no, it has personal application as well. Because this is leadership. And I talk to my students as well, my kids. So I say that every single one of you are a leader in your own right. If you have influence over somebody else, you are a leader. Don't tell me leader is the biggest misconception is that leadership is a position. That is you must have 100 people being a leader. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned by looking at leaders in the world now, responding to it, how they speak, how they carry themselves. There's a lot of lessons to be learned really. That's why I enjoy. And one thing I realized, right, is that leaders that are of integrity, that are solid, right, what they do is that they think, they speak, and they act to give people hope. Because in times of crisis, right, sometimes all people need is hope. They just need to be able to live with hope that it's going to be a better tomorrow. And once they lose their confidence in their hope, right, I tell you that is the virus in the mind is arguably worse than the virus because everything goes downhill from there. Yeah.
I know that this trait of giving hope, right, sometimes I feel like it's a talent of itself, and sometimes if you see that talent as just that talent alone, it might not be too good of a singular quality of just a leader. So the first thing that comes to mind when you talk about it, honestly, is Donald Trump. He's very good at evoking hope in people. Honestly, in all, I don't care about American politics, just that I find it interesting as a case study to see different kinds. Not to say that he's a good leader or a bad leader, but I'm just interested, because it's polarizing. Some people say that he has the ability to give hope, but when it comes to taking actions, it might not be. So what on that note, right, other than just giving hope, what are the top other qualities that you think that is most important in a leader?
There's a word for it. It's the cognitive, whatever bias, emotional bias. When people have voted for politicians in the past, they give very good orators, but they cannot run government, and then it's a mistake. So I think it's always a balance. The unfortunate thing is that, what we talked about earlier, unfortunately or fortunately, people decide with emotion and rationalize with logic. At the end of the day, we are emotional beings, and our limbic system has a greater weight in our decisions compared to our cortex. So, we just got, it's just the fact of life. But we also need to realize that recognizing that bias is that as a leader, you also systems and logic and having a strategy is also just as important as just having rhetoric. So for sure, I think if you talk about even running a business as a leader, the quality that you need is to inspire confidence in people. But you also need to have that chops, that strategies, that thinking brain to be able to strategize, to be able to have sound business strategies to grow the business, to scale the business, whatever, all your stuff, in order for you to be successful as a leader.
We have really talked about a lot of things, right? But if there's one thing to if there are a few learning points after all, this is a learning podcast, right? I think one thing I want to maybe start, right, but at the end of every podcast with every guest, right, maybe you can just summarize the key lessons that you have learned over this 1 hour conversation. The first thing that I learned is that the last thing we talked about, we are really emotional beings. And after being emotional, then we use logic to substantiate those actions. So yeah, that's one thing I learned. What do you learn, man, Kevin?
So I think we talked about our self-image, about self-esteem, talked about how the value that we see in ourselves, and that should lead you to go and seek mentorship if you want to seek mentorship. That is something that you actively work on, recognizing your own value, that you have something to offer that no one else can. And then we transition and talk about COVID. We talk about our response to it, and personally why are human beings so reactive instead of responsive, and how we can kind of move towards being more responsive. And that's a conscious, continuous action that you take in order for you to be more self-aware of that in some way we're enslaved to our emotions, and how we can kind of reduce, or rather manage that stress response effectively and use it wisely. And then that's about it. That 1 hour just passed.
Yeah, honestly, that's
that's
about it, right?
Yeah, and then resilience. Maybe I will ask a question, like, if for me now I want to start podcast, right? What are moving forward, what is your purpose? Like, what do you in this crisis? What are the insights that you have gained, or what are some of the biggest insights, personal insights, and where do you see yourself acting as a personal level? What do you think you can best do to respond in this crisis now?
The first thing that comes to mind is being responsible for actions, in a sense whereby, let's say young people like us, right, we are, by statistical sense, right, we are not that susceptible. The mortality rate, right, we are okay. We probably, it's highly likely that we won't die from it, but it's like the people around us, parents, grandparents, people whose health conditions might not be too good as well. So I think in that part, we just need, as just a normal human being, sanitize my hands. If I'm feeling ill, don't go to work. That's the best thing I can do. That's honestly another best thing I can do is for podcasting, to just share the message of, if you don't care about yourself, right? Okay, I'm not no one to judge if you don't care about yourself, but care about others. Care about others. Don't be ignorant. I think like there was this recent, it was very early on when one of the NBA players got COVID-19. Like he was joking about how he touched all the freaking mics and he got COVID-19, right? Imagine if you had that kind of ignorance and let's say you went back home with your grandparents, then your grandparents caught it. Then that's game over. So I think that the last thing, the very like direct thing, if you don't care about yourself, care about others. Yeah, and take that responsibility. It's better to be safe than sorry. Like I'm cancelling all my like piano students. It's really like just to be safe than sorry. This period will pass like any other crisis, and just do your part. Now that's the first thing that comes to mind. For yourself.
Wow, I think pretty much the same as you are. Just respond, don't react. I think probably is the theme of our podcast.
Okay, yes.
Right,
yes.
Respond, don't react. Because we talk about it in various aspects. Talk about psychology behind it. But responsibility that you said, social responsibility. Responsibility actually made of two words. Response and ability. It's acquiring the ability to respond. And you acquire it with self-knowledge, with self-awareness, with understanding how your brain works. And exactly you're right. Like, I realize this myself as well. Like, I have parents that, we see my dad celebrate his 65th birthday. I didn't realize that he's that old because like, he's so jovial and he's such a nice, jovial spirit that I forgot that he's susceptible. And like, even like you said, like, I cannot just do anything, because like, if I bring it back to my home, I will forever, not forever, but like, I will really feel like responsible, like guilt. Yeah. So for sure, be responsible for people around you, stay vigilant. I think have a healthy sense of fear as well, because we talked about overestimating threats, right? But I think in this case, we need to have a balance.
Yes, don't underestimate.
Don't have a healthy fear towards it. Understand the implications. Do everything safe distancing, or hence if you can do a Zoom meeting, do a Zoom meeting. But at the other extreme, don't live in fear as well. Don't shut down completely and panic and react and blame other people, because that's not going to help anything when you react. Your attention is all there. Focus your attention on what you can control, what you can respond to. Personally for me, that is growing my business. That's serving in my capacity. Continue to reach out to people, do my classes that can be done, build my capacity and my programs. Now's the time to innovate. so that when eventually the crisis passes, I have a greater capacity to go out there. Use it as a time to reflect and what's important and gain some insights. So pretty much. I think that's a nice conclusion.
Kevin, thanks so much for joining me on this podcast. I'm sure we have another episode this year, before the year ends, definitely. And I'm not sure if I asked you in the previous podcast, like how I end off usually most of my recent podcasts, right? What's the best advice have you ever received in the past 12 months? More recent. Like you talk about mentorship, you have been meeting new people. What's the best advice have you received in the past 12 months?
I think the most recent one is, in all things give thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was, Philippians. This is the scripture in the Bible. But it was shared by my mentor. It's not even a Christian. I just shared this by because no matter what happens, I think gratitude is very powerful. And it helps you to move forward and not be too concerned with the past and not be enslaved to perceptions. There is perception of gain and whatever that we talked about earlier.
What's the worst advice have you received in the past 12 months?
Buy toilet paper. No, I'm just kidding. Probably, I know. I don't think people told me buy toilet paper, but probably seeing, not really a worst advice, but probably seeing that crisis reveals human behavior. And it reveals the best and worst of human behavior. So those worst sides of it is probably the worst things that I've seen, advice that I've received. 1
year from now, what tangible events do you want to happen to make it the best year for your business?
You asked the question to Gary Vaynerchuk, right? I remember.
Yeah.
I think just leveraging off his answer, I want my work and to be an extension of myself. I think why I treat my work so seriously is because it's a reflection of my character and my growth. And I want people to be happy and to be not stress-free, but free from chronic stress or free from things that are holding them back to developing their resilience or causing them mental health issues. I want my work to be able to impact lives and even save lives as well.
Thanks so much, man. Thanks so much. For those listeners out there that want to keep in touch with you, right? How do they reach out to you? Where are you most active on?
Follow Rebound with Resilience on Instagram.
It will be linked in
Facebook.
the video description and Facebook. And Kevin, thanks so much, man. And see you in a couple of months.
Yes. See you. Take care.